Hello, welcome everybody. It's Michael Bott here, and it's...
And Rupert Soskin here, yes.
The Prehistory Guys, as ever, bringing you old stuff from around the world. Today we're bringing you old bread, in something that...
Very old bread.
Very old bread. Something that has not been picked up too largely in the mainstream media. Surprise, surprise. You'd have thought there'd be more interest in this. But we've picked it up, I suppose, particularly because, Rupert, tell the good folks why.
Well, it's funny. This is at Çatalhöyük in south central Turkey. And of course, we're not long back from there. We visited Çatalhöyük, and if we'd only known that this was going to be cropping up. So Çatalhöyük, if you don't know, it's a proto-city, really. It's a huge settlement. The site itself extends over 34 acres, roughly. So what's that? 14 hectares, is it something like that? 15. So they've been excavating there for a very long time, and there are debates about how many people might have been living there, but it certainly numbers in the thousands. Busy place, and they have found, now they're calling it the oldest bread in the world. It's not quite true, but it is the oldest leavened bread. They were fermenting it. So, and they found this in an oven, the remains of an oven, and they're saying it was the clay that's actually, the surrounding clay that's actually protected this bread.
I'll read from the article I've got. I've got an article here which was printed on the CNN website. It's also worth mentioning is that Çatalhöyük is, of course, one of the earliest sites that displays evidence of farming, of domestication of animals and the domestication of wheats, cereals, etc. So it's if you're going to find the earliest bread anywhere, Çatalhöyük would be a good place to look. But even with the likelihood of it being so, the fact that it has been found, I think, is quite extraordinary. Anyway, the headline of this particular article says, "World's oldest bread, dating back 8,600 years, discovered in Turkey." It says, a largely destroyed oven structure was found in an area called Mekan 66. Actually, I think the Mekan is the Turkish word for space. So if you look in the English archaeological records, the plans for Çatalhöyük, they're divided into spaces and buildings, and it's space 66, where there are adjoining mud brick houses at the archaeological site of Çatalhöyük in the southern Turkish province of Konya, according to Turkey's Necmettin Erbakan University Science and Technology Research and Application Centre. That's a mouthful, isn't it? And apologies for pronunciation
well done.
of words that aren't in my language. Around the oven, archaeologists found wheat, barley, pea seeds, and palm-sized round and a palm-sized round spongy residue, it said in a press release on Wednesday. Analyses determined that the organic residue was 8,600-year-old uncooked fermented bread. We can say that this find at Çatalhöyük is the oldest bread in the world, archaeologist Ali Umut Token, head of the excavation delegation and an associate professor at Anadolu University in Turkey, told Turkish State News about Anadolu Agency, outlet Anadolu Agency on Wednesday. Don't need all that kind of detail. So, oldest bread in the world, as you were early on, as you did at the top of the show, start qualifying that. Yes. Should we qualify that a bit further?
Yeah. We should qualify that because, as said, this is certainly the earliest known leavened bread, but unleavened bread, we know that the Natufians, a little bit to the south and east, that they were making bread a lot longer ago. And in fact, the earliest bread found there is in northeastern Jordan. at a site called Shubayqa. Or Shubayqa, I'm not sure which Shubayqa is it.
Well, I don't know. It's A-A-Y. I'm going to call it. It's got to be Shubayqa because it's baking
with bread.
Shubayking, yes.
Shubayqa. He's a shoe baker.
It's a aid memoir.
But the thing is that whilst these are, so this is unleavened, these are flatbreads that they were making, but they date back 14,500 years.
Yeah. So put that, just reiterate the dates for Çatalhöyük and the dates for Shubayqa. We're talking about how many years difference?
Well, so you've got, at its height, Çatalhöyük dates to 9,000 years ago. And at Shubayqa, we're talking about 14,500 years ago. So 5,500 years further back making bread, which is staggering, really. But yes, I mean, it's staggering considering what the Natufians were up to and the way they was subsisting. We could do a whole other program about the way that the lead up to domestic agriculture and domestic and farming. I suppose the way that we kind of know it. I suppose it's also worth pointing out that because at Çatalhöyük, they had got into actual farming. That's a significant difference because it meant that they could have been making bread from a single chosen crop, as opposed to you look at the Natufian breads and they were harvested wild grains. And I have a list here, actually, if you bear with me. So the flatbreads, they said resembling pita bread, really. And they were made with wild cereals such as barley, einkorn or oats, as well as tubers from an aquatic papyrus relative. They've all been found ground into flour. So, maybe not single crop like wheat, but the Natufians, they were hot on their bread.
Yeah.
The Natufians were hot on quite a few things, weren't they?
Well, exactly. I was going to say, while we're talking about early bread, the two things go hand in hand. Early brewing, because it's if you look at Shubayqa, hopefully I'll sort of place that on a map for you. 150 miles to the west of that, over in Israel, at a place called Raqefet Cave, are the earliest signs of brewing. Little pits and silos inside a cave mouth show residues from brewing. We are told inevitably that the two things go hand in hand, side by side. They're both the production of bread and the production of beer. They're side products of one another. So which came first? That's the eternal question.
I think Raqefet, the evidence for brewing there goes back. Is it 13,000 years? I think.
Yeah.
So we've liked our beer for a very long time.
Yes. Anyway, going back to bread at Çatalhöyük, it says it is a smaller version of a loaf of bread, the thing that they found. It has a finger print pressed in the centre. It has not been baked, but it has been fermented, and it survived to the present day with the starches still inside. And there is no similar example of anything like this to date, he added. As a sidebar, it's also worth mentioning that I hinted at the top, how extraordinary a find like this is. And if as we've stood and looked at the area within which this was found, I think it's found in the northern excavation on the top of the East Mound, is to find this in excavation, and it's not a very big thing. Is quite extraordinary because you need specialists on site to be able to determine what it is that you've found. When you're digging stuff out of the ground, everything looks the same. Things have got different hardnesses, different textures, and all the rest of it. But unless you've got your eye in, you know what you're looking at. It's very easy, perhaps to discard something that may be. Of great interest. I'm telling you what, though, the converse is true as well. I've been digging away and thinking, oh, look what I found. A bit of burnt stone, chuck it away. That goes on a lot. But I say that because it's worth mentioning that Çatalhöyük, I mean, presumably because it's such a large excavation, but it's one of the first places where you got many disciplines, scientific disciplines represented on site.
Yeah, that's certainly true.
In terms of bioarchaeology and all kinds of sciences. So people with a specialist eye are able to look at things that come out of the ground. It's not every excavation can have that kind of intensity of gaze on what's going on. So it's another reason why, yes, Çatalhöyük is always going to be presenting us with stuff out of the ground that is extraordinary because of the size of the site, but also you've got the people there, with the right eyes that are going to discern this kind of thing. So scanning electron microscope images showed that the spaces in the sample, they could see the starch grains, eliminating our suspicions. Biologist, so there we go, biologist Sila Kavak, a lecturer at Gaziantep University in Turkey, said in the release. He added that the analyses uncovered chemicals found in plants and indicators of fermentation. Flour and water had been mixed in with the bread, having been prepared next to the oven and kept for a while. It's an exciting discovery for Turkey and the world. Well, it is, and you've got to keep it sort of in context. We're lucky to be looking at Çatalhöyük, but Çatalhöyük is probably not the epicenter of everything bread-wise. It's the sites the excavations that haven't been done, the sites that haven't been uncovered, that probably provide evidence of bread production stretching back in time and the development of it. We don't have access to everything, every bit of archaeological evidence ever produced. In fact, we only have access to a tiny percentage of stuff.
I think one of the nice things here, though, is that having found this at Çatalhöyük and having found the remains of an oven, that bearing in mind that it's another one of the sites that they've still only excavated a really small percentage of the entire site. So it's that little tease, isn't it, of what else is there to be found under this? It's very exciting.
And whether it'll ever be all uncovered, because the scale of these sites is hard to appreciate. And of course, the kind of excavation that's going on, this takes years and years and years to excavate very small. I know people get frustrated by the slow nature of archaeology, but even with large teams working on, comparatively small spaces, it takes a long time to get down through the layers and record the layers. And unless that's going on, you never have finds like this.
Yeah.
So hats off archaeologists.
You saying that, absolutely hats off archaeologists. You saying that, it's a really good point, isn't it? That if you've seen archaeologists working in the field, and it's this meticulous, taking away of a bit of soil at a time and a bit at a time and a bit at a time. And you go and look at Çatalhöyük and you see, I can't remember the actual depth of the excavations, but it's something like, I don't know, is it 30 feet or something of depth? I mean, it's staggering when you think that you're taking it back just a scrape at a time, and they've gone down something like 10 meters anyway. It might not be quite that much, but it's a staggering depth.
Yeah.
So as you say, the length of time it takes to do that so carefully and meticulously in case you destroy something important. So amazing.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to spend as much time at Çatalhöyük as we would have liked, but we do have footage to show you, and we'll be putting together a program about Çatalhöyük in the not too distant future. Amazing site, amazing spot. Oh, by the way, while we're talking about Turkey and Çatalhöyük, and I think Göbekli Tepe may have been mentioned at some point. Have a look in the description below. You'll find a link to our project, which is called Göbekli Tepe to Stonehenge, in which we're piecing together the story of the Neolithic as it came across the Aegean and the Mediterranean and through Europe and up the Danube and across to eventually producing Stonehenge, if I can put it that way. If you'd like to support us doing that, do have a look at that link, and also have a look at our Patreon page link down below as well. And before we go, just like and subscribe. That'd be nice too.
Yes.
Every little bit helps. Thanks so much.
All helps.
Yeah. With that, I think it is time to say bye-bye, unless there's something I've missed. I don't think there is.
No, I don't think so. Oldest leavened bread. There you go. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.